Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Hello, welcome back. This is Talking Books and Writing and Stuff, talking about writing a book and some songs and things like that with Glenn Dixon from Calgary. So, Glenn Dixon, this is a book called Bootleg Stardust. It's about a rock and roll band. And apparently, Glenn, you are in or have been in rock bands. Is that right?
You know, when I was a younger guy, I wanted to be a rock star. So that never happened. So I wrote a book about it instead.
And you also wrote a book about letters to Juliet called what? Juliet's Answer. So do you actually, and I saw a movie about that a while back. Was that movie tied into your book at all?
No, that came out about the same time I was writing the book. And so I'll give you a little backstory on that. So Juliet's Answer was nonfiction. I have 3 books published before Bootleg Stardust, all of them nonfiction. And that was kind of my breakthrough book that I went over to Verona, Italy, and I volunteered, really kind of on a lark, to answer letters to Juliet. So there's a group of Italian women who have been answering the boxes of letters they get every year that are all addressed to Juliet. And being the only guy in their midst, I thought it would be kind of fun. That book ended up in 12 different countries and 5 languages, and got picked up by Simon & Schuster. So that was a big breakthrough for me.
And I assume it's still available out there in Bookland.
Yeah, sure. You can find it anywhere. Juliet's Answer.
Juliet's Answer by Glenn Dixon, based in Calgary. You also had a book, Tripping the World Fantastic, shortlisted for the W.O. Mitchell Award. What's that one about?
Now, that one was about, so my first 2 books were kind of travel books, and that one in particular, I traveled, I'm not sure how many countries, 30 or 40 countries, listening to the music in those countries. And kind of tied into that was a lot of brain research about what music is doing in your brain. And it was fantastic. I saw African drumming in Ghana, and I went to Cuba, really all over the world. So that was my nonfiction book about music.
And this one is your music book about music called Bootleg Stardust. Tell us a little bit about that title.
Yeah, so obviously it's a reference to in fact, I could set it up a little bit. The first paragraph of the book, our hero Levi Jackson is a band in a little club where there's maybe 5 people listening to them, and the song that they're playing is Space Oddity by David Bowie, Ground Control to Major Tom, that one. Now this poor guy, it's 1974, and he lives in his best friend's basement, and he's sending out demo tapes to record companies, which is what you did in those days, and kind of miracle of miracles, he gets a call from a record company. And they want him to go over to London, England, and audition with this band who's already done 1 album. The band's called Downtown Exit. Not only that, his audition is in Abbey Road Studios.
And the band is called Downtown Exit. The guy, Levi, living in his best friend's basement. And then later on, we find out something else about living in his best friend's basement that had a profound effect on Levi. And Levi just goes over to England for this band called Downtown Exit. And they have an album, 29 Street Lights. So how does that come into your real life right now? I understand you're in a band called Downtown Exit.
Yeah. Well, actually, the band I'm in wasn't called Downtown Exit, but I was playing in this band best band I've ever played in my life, by the way. It's like 4 other guys, and they're like top-notch musicians. So when I started writing this book, I think we started tossing around the idea of, well, why don't we make the real songs for this fictitious band, Downtown Exit, and the writers in the band and 3 lead singers. So we could kind of cover a lot of ground, and we sounded like a band from the 1970s, I'd say, because we're kind of older guys. Maybe not that old, but, you know, that was the music we listened to a lot was the music of that era. And so I think that naturally came out in our sound, and we decided we would record some of these fictional band in my novel, Downtown Exit. I mean, the novel's called Bootleg Stardust. The band is Downtown Exit.
The novel is Bootleg Stardust, kind of a tribute in a backhanded way to David Bowie and Ziggy Stardust, and also Bootleg was a kind of surreptitious recordings of groups way back then that people passed around their cassette tapes. So
that's right. Yeah, you got it.
You tie that together. Glenn Dixon is with us. It's Bootleg Stardust is the book. I like the fact that in the book it's a Canadian reference. You didn't call the guys' shoes sneakers or tennis shoes or track. You called them running shoes. They weren't trainers. They weren't tennis shoes. They were running shoes like a good old Canadian boy would have on his feet. Thank you for that.
Levi is definitely Canadian. The band, the other guys in the band are actually American, but Levi is Canadian, and I did try and throw in a lot of references to 1974. So that is one of the things I remember, is that we all had Adidas running shoes,
and they were low cut.
Yeah, they were low cut.
And then all the punk rockers started wearing high cut boots like the Ramones did. So then I went, oh my gosh, now I have to go back and find high cut running shoes or high tops, Converse All Stars, right? Chuck Taylor. What's the idea? Like you were just tossing around ideas one day and said, I think I'll write about a fictional rock band from the 70s, or what was the story behind it?
Well, I think that came out of, well, as I said, my 3 previous books were nonfiction, and Juliet's Answer was really a special one. So, I mean, the little spoiler there is when I went over to Verona, Italy, on a lark, as I said, I ended up meeting the love of my life there, which was totally unexpected. And after that book, I thought, I'm never going to have a story like this happen to me again. It was so perfect and so unexpected. So I thought, well, my next book has got to be a novel. And what would I like to write a novel about? Well, I'm really into music, and I wanted it to be about a band in that kind of period of the early 70s, where it was, you know, Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and Cat Stevens and Joni Mitchell, and all these people were just doing the most incredible music. So that's all I knew to start out with. Is I wanted to set a story in that time period, and music would play a big part of it.
And music does play a big part of it. The band in the book Bootleg Stardust by Glenn Dixon, a Canadian kid goes over to England, lands a gig with a top-notch, up-and-coming band, but then things happen that perhaps shouldn't have happened. But they do their audition, like you said, or his audition for the band in Abbey Road Studios, and apparently you've been there. Tell us about that.
Yes, I have. So that was probably after the first draft had been written, and really I went over to England, and also Paris and a couple other places, to kind of check out that I was writing things correctly. I mean, I'd been to some of those places before, but I wanted to know exactly, well, how long is that street, and what's the temperature, and I wanted to get everything authentically correct. And then I found out that you can go into Abbey Road Studios. It's going to cost you, and it was expensive, but we ended up taking 5 of our Downtown Exit songs to Abbey Road Studios to be mixed and mastered, which Well, let me tell you, walking up the steps of Abbey Road, right where the Beatles had done pretty much everything they ever recorded was at Abbey Road. It was incredible experience walking into that building.
Now, is it the actual studio? Is it a big cavernous room, or is it divided up into little spaces? What's it look like?
The original rooms. There's actually two big studios, Studio 2 and Studio 3, and they're in the basement. And yeah, they're huge. I think I said in the book, they're the size of like a junior high gymnasium. Much, much bigger floor space than you would see in the studios today. And also the control room was up on the second floor. So there was like a big plate glass window way above everybody. On the third floor are the mixing and mastering suites. So those are smaller rooms. And those are different consoles for a different reason. So it's a pretty big building. And all down the hallways, there's pictures, a lot of them of the Beatles, but also, I mentioned Pink Floyd. So Dark Side of the Moon was recorded at Abbey Road Studios. And now in those great big studios, they often use them for film soundtracks.
Oh, yes.
So they can get a whole symphony orchestra in there. So the entire Lord of the Rings soundtrack was done in there, and a couple of the Star Wars soundtracks were done in there. So it's become very famous now for film soundtracks.
Glenn Dixon is with us. We're talking about his latest book. It just came out, Bootleg Stardust. It's from Simon & Schuster. Run out and get it, because it's really good and musically authentic in the sense of it talks about the band and what really happens when a group of people get on the road. Glenn Dixon, what's your favorite kind of music?
Oh, I'm a huge Beatles fan.
Really?
I think when I was...
Really? What a surprise.
maybe 10 years old, I heard Hey Jude for the first time, and it blew my little mind, for sure. And I remember walking to, here's a Canadian reference for you. I put on my Adidas and I saved up my $5, because that's what an album was in those days. And I walked all the way to Kmart, which was pretty far away. And I bought myself Magical Mystery Tour. That's the first record I ever bought.
Oh, no. The first record I ever bought was 45 of Smokey Robinson and the Miracles with Shop Around.
Ah, nice.
So I kind of predate you.
I went and raided my basement and to see just what albums I have down there and what 45s, and a lot of the ones that are mentioned in a lot of the songs and bands that are mentioned in the book, I actually have the 45s, like Smoke on the Water was a big one.
Well, that adds me to my next question, because the guy who owns the record company, his last name is Blackmore, and I was thinking, just last night actually, I went, oh my God, is that a reference to Deep Purple? So tell me, because of Richie
Blackmore.
Richie Blackmore is in Deep Purple.
Well, there's a big connection here. So not only did we mix and master the songs at Abbey Road Studios, the original recording was done on the Rolling Stones Mobile. So let me explain them. Rolling Stones Mobile is this old beat-up truck. It's about the size of a small moving van, and it was owned by the Rolling Stones. They used it on Sticky Fingers and Exile on Main Street, and then Led Zeppelin got a hold of it, and I think they did 4 of their albums on it. Now this would be the bed tracks, like the drums and bass and some of the guitar parts. And anyway, this old truck, it sat in storage for 25 years and kind of got forgotten about until in Calgary here we have the National Music Center, which is this spectacular building. It looks like a Guggenheim Museum or something. It's really modernistic. And they have this amazing collection. So a few years ago, they literally bought the Rolling Stones Mobile truck and had it shipped up here. And they built a room around it. And about the time we were starting to write these songs, they had rewired this truck and refurbished the console. In the back of the truck, if I didn't say already, it was a state-of-the-art recording studio that you could take around anywhere. So it had been refurbished, and they kind of opened it up and said, anyone want to record on this thing? And we said, yes, we want to record on that. It's the Rolling Stones mobile, man.
Right.
So literally, this fictional band took on a life of its own, and we recorded the songs that are mentioned in the book, and we recorded them on the Rolling Stones mobile, and then we took them to Abbey Road. It was like a dream come true.
So I guess you had to pay to do this, or did somebody underwrite your recording ventures?
We had to pay. The Rolling Stones mobile wasn't insanely expensive. Abbey Road is insanely expensive, but we thought, when in our lifetime would we ever get a chance to do something like this?
Exactly.
We have this band. It's really good. I've got this book project. The songs are like really solid. Wow, let's make this real.
So is Downtown Exit going to go on tour in real life? And
well, not right now, I'll tell you. But
right.
Yeah, I think we played our last gig February 29th, 2020, and that was a leap year, right? So It was February 29th. It was literally 2 weeks before the first lockdown. And we didn't really, I think we'd heard the news reports already, but I don't think we thought much of it. And that was our last gig. And wow, we were pretty hot back then. We haven't rehearsed since.
Oh no. We're talking with Glenn Dixon. He's based in Calgary. The book is called Bootleg Stardust, and about rock band starts out in England, then they go on tour in Europe. So you mentioned lots of different halls in Europe. One of them is, as you said, the size of a junior hockey team arena. So again, that's another Canadian connection in there. Most people will understand immediately what that means. The other halls that you've been to, that the band Downtown Exit goes to, have you been to those then?
Yeah, I went to all of them on this last trip. And there was lots of stuff in the book that I kind of had to take out in the end, because the editor was saying, this is kind of a lot of information. I'll just give you an example. Is Downtown Exit plays a 3-night run at the Olympia Theater in Paris.
Right.
And it was on that stage in 1963 that the Beatles were playing, and their band came onto the stage to tell them that they just had their first #1 hit. Was on that stage that they got that news.
Perfect. And you also have the band staying at Hotel in Paris with a connection there to Oscar Wilde. You probably stayed there then too, I guess.
I didn't. I went in.
Oh.
Extremely expensive. So, but you can, Oscar Wilde, the poet, he actually died in one of the rooms there. He lived there the last 2 or 3 years of his life, I think. He lived in that suite, and you can go stay in that suite if you dare, because he died in that suite. So, of course, I inserted that into my book. They had to stay in that hotel. They had to, like any good rock band, wreck it.
Of course. So, Glenn Dixon is with us. The book is Bootleg Stardust. It's out now by Simon & Schuster, from Simon & Schuster by Glenn Dixon. Now you have a girl photographer who follows the band around, part of the group. Please pronounce for me her name. I can't pronounce it.
It's Ariadne.
Ariadne.
And Ariadne is a Greek name. It's actually from one of the Greek myths, and that plays into the book a little bit because she's from Greece, Ariadne. Maybe I was thinking a little bit about Linda McCartney, who was a photographer, ended up marrying Paul McCartney, of course. So, that occurred to me later. I think that was in the back of my mind, and she's along on the tour as their photographer. One of the problems is that the lead singer is kind of with her, but Levi really falls for her. So that's a little love triangle in there that causes a lot of problems.
Well, you have her father, her fictional father, is a famous Greek filmmaker, and then you've got a segment where she says that she met Joni Mitchell, and her father and Joni Mitchell were both the same because being famous hadn't brought the slightest bit of happiness to either one of them. So,
yeah, that's right. Now, obviously, I haven't talked to Joni Mitchell, but I don't think she's that happy a person. And I threw that bit in there because they met in Greece. Joni Mitchell lived in Greece for a little while. She's got a couple songs written about it. And I've been to the little village where she lived. The Mermaid Cafe is in one of her songs. And so I set up this fictional little conversation with Ariadne and her father meeting Joni Mitchell in this little cafe on the island of Crete in Greece.
I'm not a big Joni Mitchell fan, but obviously, 50,000 Elvis fans can't be wrong, as they say way back in the 50s on his gold record album. So obviously she has fans all over the place. I just, we can have a little offshoot conversation here, Glenn, if you don't mind, about the fact that the Canadians always seem to jump on somebody who's famous long after they left Canada and then claim that person as Canadian, as if nobody can ever be good if they're just from Canada and they stay in Canada. Everybody has to leave before they're anybody. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, this is maybe something deep in the Canadian psyche. I was just talking with a friend about this. Yeah, of course, there's these massive stars like Joni Mitchell and Neil Young and maybe Leonard Cohen, but they all left Canada. And the bands that stayed here, even though they became huge here, like we're talking about the Tragically Hip and how they were huge here, but they never really made a dent in the United States.
What was that?
I don't know why that is. You can't make it as a Canadian and stay in Canada.
I don't understand. Well, some people have, so that's good. Joy Fielding, the writer, Margaret Atwood, of course, the writer. Lots of writers seem to make it big, but even years ago you had to, if you're writing a story, you had to change the locale because nobody in the States wanted to publish a book about Saskatoon, a murder mystery in Vancouver, but then that kind of broke through in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Regardless, we're
for sure.
We're on an offshoot here. We're talking about Bootleg Stardust, Glenn Dixon, and the band in the book is called Downtown Exit. And Glenn, you say that the Downtown Exit band has songs out there based on the songs that are in the book, or the songs in the book are based on Downtown Exit songs, so we can actually hear those in real life. Where can we find them?
Yeah, you can actually hear them anywhere. You can hear them on Spotify or YouTube or Apple Play or almost any of the streaming services. Just go look for Downtown Exit and you'll see their first album that was mentioned in the book and the second album that they're working on in the book. Because
must say I'm not quite finished. I'm sort of at a place in the middle of the book where they're in Paris doing the shows at the Olympic theater, so there was some doubt that they were going to get picked up, so things do pick up. So what's next then? Is there a sequel to Bootleg Stardust coming out?
Well, I haven't started writing one yet, but I think there would be room for a sequel for sure.
What else do you do in your day-to-day life besides play music and write?
Well, that takes up a lot of my time, but there's also, we've been making short videos. We're not that interested in making, traditional much music kind of music videos, but sort of little documentaries. So obviously when I went to Abbey Road Studios, I had a film camera and I filmed everything. So we are, some of that's up on YouTube and you can see the inside of Abbey Road Studios and see us recording on the Rolling Stones mobile and, a few things like that.
This is Glenn Dixon, and if you look him up on the web, it's Glenn with two N's, Glenn Dixon, Dixon. Were you always living in Calgary?
I was born in Vancouver, but I've lived in Calgary most of my life.
So when were you in Vancouver? You ever listen to Sea Fun in Vancouver?
Oh, I would have been too young. I was a little kid when my parents moved us out of Vancouver.
Oh, well, there you go. I used to work at Sea Fun in Vancouver, so...
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That was a fun time in the late 70s and early 80s, so... Things... So run down again your books for us. You have, of course, Bootleg Stardust. There's Juliet's Answer... And Tripping the World Fantastic, that's about music, right?
About music around the world, yeah.
And Pilgrim in the Palace of Words, what's that one?
Well, that was my first published book. So, also a travel book. That was about languages around the world. I was doing my master's degree in linguistics, as a matter of fact. And I actually got accepted to do my PhD at UBC. And at that point I thought, well, what do I really want to do here? Do I want to be an academic, which would definitely be pretty good?
Yeah.
Or do I want to be did in my master's degree? So I traveled around the world and I went to the places where some of these languages were still being spoken, and I talked to the people and told some of their stories, and that ended up being my first my first published book.
Wonderful. Glenn Dixon has been with us today here on Talking Books and Writing and Stuff, talking about his latest book, Bootleg Stardust. There could be more coming with Levi Jackson and the Downtown Exit Band. The book, Bootleg Stardust, is from Simon & Schuster. You can find Downtown Exit songs, like Glenn said, just about anywhere. Spotify, SoundCloud, what's that other one? SoundCloud, yeah. I can't think of them, but they're all out there anyway. Spotify, those kind of things. Any last words from you or Levi Jackson before we leave you, Glenn?
Well, I'm looking forward to playing live again. Maybe this summer, but definitely in the fall.
And Glenn Jackson has been with us. Before we say goodbye, we'd just like to thank Glenn for being with us, and also for all the people who sponsor us on Patreon. And if you want to toss a few dollars our way, that would be fine. Just look for talkingbooks.tk on Patreon, and the world will love you, and so will I. Glenn Dixon, Bootleg Stardust, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Married in white on the sand down in Mexico. There we built our home up where the tall green grasses grow. Then our honeymoon, it said, the world is went jet black. So we split up the gold and we swore we'd never look back. I'm gonna paint my front porch red. Take a note on the old front door. He said the blues don't live no more.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.